Welcome back to Outside Views, your favorite channel for unpacking Britain's complicated relationship with itself. And today we're diving into something many Brits probably won't or don't want to face head on, the so-called British legacy of failure. I know, it's a dramatic title, but trust me, it's not without a good reason. But let's jump straight into some alarming numbers. Did you know that shoplifting offences in England and Wales have risen by a whopping 20% in the last years? Yeah, you heard that right. Shoplifting has hit an all-time high, smashing records with over 500,000 incidents recorded up to December 2024. And to put it bluntly, that's a lot of chocolate bars and deodorants disappearing off shelves. And this sharp rise means we've gone from roughly 429,000 incidents to nearly 517,000 in a single year. And this isn't just petty crime we're talking about. This is symptomatic of a deeper issue. Because here's the kicker. These aren't isolated events. They form part of a broader pattern of crime and, more importantly, unsolved crime. If shoplifting were the only issue, perhaps Britain could laugh it off as a quirky national pastime. But unfortunately, the numbers get grimmer. More than 2 million crimes went unsolved across England and Wales last year. Yeah, 2 million. And to make that even clearer, that's over 5,700 crimes each day slipping through the fingers of justice. And if that number doesn't shock you, it absolutely should. And think about it this way. 39% of all recorded crimes last year had no resolution whatsoever, and less than 7% resulted in a charge or summons. Imagine running a business where only 7% of your products actually worked. You'd be bankrupt in a week. And yet somehow this has become Britain's new normal when it comes to crime solving. Unsurprisingly, this situation has caused some serious political backlash. The Liberal Democrats have jumped on these figures, describing the situation as completely scandalous, and Lisa Smart, the party's Home Affairs spokesperson, isn't pulling punches. She calls it nothing less than a legacy of failure, and she's squarely blaming the Conservatives for letting things get this bad. And she might have a point, because the Conservatives were in power for the first half of 2024, and many argue that these figures represent their inability to tackle crime effectively. Smart and her party are even demanding the scrapping of police and crime commissioners to redirect those funds to frontline policing. And why? Because, as Marc puts it, thousands of victims are being denied justice every single day. And let's pause here for a moment and consider the implications. These statistics aren't just numbers on a page. They represent real victims who have been failed by the system. They represent shopkeepers who've lost their livelihoods, families who've lost their sense of security, and communities that have been let down by the very institutions designed to protect them. And I know they broke into my flat while I was living in the UK. Unsolved, by the way. But why exactly is crime soaring? Some analysts point to economic instability, cost of living crisis, and cuts to public services. And others mention understaffed police forces struggling to keep up with the rising demands. And the truth probably lies somewhere in the middle here. Britain is currently facing a perfect storm of economic hardship, social instability, and stretched public services. It's a combination that allows crime to thrive. However, it's not all doom and gloom, or at least it shouldn't be. Britain prides itself on being a nation of law and order. The public expects safety, fairness, and accountability. And right now, that expectation isn't being met. So, what's the solution? Well, one thing is clear. Throwing blame around isn't enough. Tackling this legacy of failure requires tangible actions, and it demands investments in community policing, resources for investigations, and support systems for at-risk communities. It means politicians from all sides need to step up their game, and platitudes won't cut it anymore. This crisis demands action. And let's talk about the human impact for a second. Every unsolved crime leaves behind a victim who feels ignored and powerless. And every incident of shoplifting erodes trust in local businesses and communities. And every statistic represents a real person with real grievances. And every time that crime goes unsolved, emboldens others to follow suit. And we can't simply treat these issues as isolated incidents. There are symptoms of deeper societal issues. And if left unchecked, this cycle of crime and neglect could spiral even further out of control. And moreover, the trust between citizens and law enforcement is eroding rapidly. When crimes go unresolved, communities lose faith in policing institutions. And this mistrust further exacerbates the issue. As fewer crimes get reported, fewer witnesses come forward, and the gap between communities and their protectors widens dangerously. Looking at the international perspective, Britain's reputation as a safe and orderly nation is under threat. Tourists, investors, and foreign talent might reconsider coming to a country perceived as struggling with crime and ineffective law enforcement. And this perception has real economic consequences, potentially impacting tourism, trade, and the overall attractiveness of Britain on the global stage. What's needed is a comprehensive approach. You need reform at every level of this justice system and more investment in police resources, better technology, streamlined processes, and enhanced community outreach programs. Community policing initiatives must be revived and strengthened, restoring trust and cooperation between the public and law enforcement agencies. And let's face it, maybe it's also time for a fresh approach, like ensuring your police officers aren't bogged down filling out forms in triplicate every time they arrest someone. Or perhaps politicians could stop spending half their time pointing fingers and the other half hiding behind statistics. Because, let's be honest, right now, if Britain's criminal justice system were a Netflix show, it would have been cancelled after the first season. And this is Britain's wake-up call. The question is whether Britain will answer it or hit the snooze button yet again. And will it finally commit to meaningful police reform, robust community support, and real solutions? Or will it continue down a path of patchwork fixes, temporary solutions, and political finger-pointing? As outsiders looking in, one thing is clear. Britain needs to confront this legacy head-on. It needs honest conversation, strong leadership, and effective action. Because this legacy of failure isn't just about crime statistics. It's about Britain's identity as a fair, safe, and just society. So thanks for joining us on Outside Views today. And if you appreciated our honest analysis, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more videos like this. And I'm here, as always, cutting through the noise to give you clarity without the spin. So see you next time, and the next video is right here in the end screen.